The Alpha King thought his children were dead. That was the only reason he kicked open the den door with his sword in his hand. For 8 months, no one had been allowed inside that room. Not servants, not healers, not even him. The twins had become wild after their mother's death. They bit anyone who came close. They screamed through the night. And tonight the castle had suddenly gone silent. Too silent. Then he saw her. A young Omega was asleep on the stone floor. One pup lay across her chest. The other had his tiny hand wrapped in her hair. A fire burned beside them. There was fresh bread on the table. Tiny blankets covered the children. For the first time since their mother died, they looked happy. The Alpha King forgot how to breathe. Then his wolf growled, "Mate." The woman slowly opened her eyes. She looked terrified, as if she already knew her life was over. Before he could take another step, the doors burst open. Guards stormed into the den, carrying a bottle of poison. "Your Majesty, we found this in her room. This woman murdered the queen." The Omega went pale. Then something even stranger happened. The children woke, and when the guards reached for her, both pups threw themselves in front of the woman and screamed, "Do not touch our mother." The Alpha King had only one question. Why were his children protecting the woman accused of destroying their family? And why did his wolf insist she belonged to him? The Alpha King expected screams when he opened the door. Instead, he found peace. The storm outside was wild. Rain crashed against the castle walls, and thunder rolled through the mountains. Rowan Blackthorn pushed open the heavy wooden door of the forbidden den and stepped inside. Then he stopped breathing. A small fire burned in the corner. Fresh bread rested on a stone plate. Tiny blankets covered 2 sleeping wolf pups, and beneath them lay a young woman. She was asleep on the cold floor. One child had his head on her chest. The other was curled against her side with one tiny hand wrapped in her dark hair. For 8 long months the royal twins had refused to sleep. They screamed every night. They bit the servants. They cried until they had no tears left. But tonight they looked peaceful, safe, happy. The young woman looked exhausted. Her simple beige dress was torn at the sleeve. A bruise darkened one cheek. There were dried tears on her face, as if she had cried herself to sleep. Then Rowan caught her scent. His entire body went still. "Mate!" The word exploded inside him. His wolf surged forward, so suddenly that his heart nearly stopped. "Mate!" The woman slowly opened her eyes. For a second she looked confused. Then she saw him. Fear instantly filled her face. She tried to sit up, but did not want to wake the children. At that exact moment the door burst open behind him. Several guards rushed inside. "Your Majesty," one of them shouted. The woman flinched. The guard pointed at her. "That is the servant who stole medicine from the queen's chambers." Another guard held up a small bottle. "We found poison hidden in her room." The room became silent. The woman stared at the bottle. "I have never seen that before." No one answered. Then the little girl woke. Princess Alara blinked sleepily and looked up at the young woman. When she saw the guards, she immediately wrapped her arms around her waist. "No." Her voice trembled. "Do not take her." The little boy woke next. Prince Cassian sat up and looked around. The moment he saw the guards, he stepped in front of the woman. A low growl escaped his throat. The guards looked horrified. The twins had not protected anyone since their mother died. Rowan could barely believe what he was seeing. The woman gently touched Cassian's shoulder. "It is all right, little prince." Her voice was soft, kind. The little boy shook his head. "No, you stay." Rowan felt something painful move inside his chest. His son had barely spoken in months. Now he was speaking for the stranger. The Alpha King stepped forward. "What is your name?" The woman lowered her eyes. "Lyra." She looked so small sitting there with the children clinging to her. "Who are you?" "I work in the palace kitchens." She swallowed hard. "I bring food to the servants." "Why are you here?" Before she could answer, Alara looked up. "Because we were hungry." The room froze. Rowan slowly turned toward his daughter. "What did you say?" "We were hungry." The little girl looked down. "Nobody came. Nobody brought food. Nobody stayed with us." Silence. A terrible silence. The storm outside suddenly seemed far away. The Alpha King looked at his guards. No one could meet his eyes. The children had been starving. His children. The heirs of the kingdom. A cold rage settled inside him. Lyra spoke quietly. "I found them crying." Her green eyes filled with sadness. They were alone. Cashin lowered his head. "We missed you, Daddy." The words struck Rowan harder than any sword. He had spent months fighting to protect his kingdom, while his own children had been suffering inside his castle. He knelt beside them. "I am here now." Ilara touched his hand. "She sang to us." Rowan looked at Lyra. She looked embarrassed. The little girl smiled for the first time in months. Her songs chased away the bad dreams. The Alpha King stared at the young woman. No servant had managed to comfort his children. No healer. No teacher. No warrior. Only this frightened Omega. His wolf growled again. "Mate. Protect her." The sound of footsteps interrupted his thoughts. Lady Selene entered the den. She wore a silver gown and looked beautiful as always. Then she saw Lyra. Her expression immediately changed. Her eyes became cold. "So this is where you have been." Lyra lowered her head. "I only came because the children were crying." "You stole food." "I took leftovers." "You entered a forbidden place." "The children needed someone." Selene looked furious. She turned toward Rowan. "This woman has been sneaking around the palace for weeks." The Alpha King did not answer. He could not stop looking at Lyra. Then the head guard stepped forward and handed him the small bottle. "Your Majesty." "The poison." Rowan uncorked it. The bitter scent of wolfsbane filled the air. His expression darkened. "Why was this in your room?" Lyra looked confused. "My room. The guards found it there. I have never seen that bottle." She sounded terrified. "I swear it." One of the guards laughed. "A thief and a liar." Lyra flinched. As she turned her face, Rowan noticed the bruise on her cheek again. "Who hurt you?" She looked up. "Nobody." "Who did this?" She said nothing. The Alpha King's eyes hardened. Someone struck her. He was certain. But before he could ask again, another voice echoed through the room. "Your Majesty." Beta Darius entered. He bowed respectfully. "I found something else." He held a folded cloth. Then he opened it. A necklace lay inside. The former queen's necklace. The room erupted in gasps. Lyra went pale. "I have never seen that." Her voice shook. "I swear." Darius looked disappointed. "I hoped she was innocent." He turned toward Rowan. "But this leaves little doubt." The Alpha King looked at the necklace. Then at Lyra. Then at his children. Ilara was crying. Cashin looked frightened. The little boy suddenly stared at Darius. His face changed. He looked scared. Very scared. "Daddy." Rowan looked down. "What is it?" Cashin opened his mouth. Then closed it, as if he wanted to say something but could not. Darius smiled gently at him. The little prince stepped backward. The Alpha King noticed. Something felt wrong. Something he could not explain. Darius folded his hands. For the safety of the kingdom, she should be imprisoned until her trial. The words hung in the air. Lyra slowly looked at Rowan. There was no anger in her eyes. No hatred. Only sadness. As if she already knew how this would end. His wolf roared. "Mate. Choose her. Protect her." But the poison was real. The necklace was real. The accusations were real. And yet his children were holding on to her as if she were the only safe place left in the world. "Please, Daddy." Ilara cried. "Do not take her away." Rowan closed his eyes. The entire kingdom rested on his shoulders. One wrong decision could destroy everything. When he opened his eyes, his face had become hard again. "Take her to the royal cells." The twins screamed. Guards stepped forward. Lyra did not fight. She simply stood. Her eyes never left Rowan. Then she whispered softly, "I thought fate had finally found me." The guards pulled her away. Cashin burst into tears. Ilara ran after her. The heavy door closed. Silence filled the den once more. The fire crackled softly. Rain continued to fall outside. And for the first time in many years, the Alpha King felt something break inside his chest. Because deep down he feared he had just sent away the one person his children needed. And perhaps the one person his heart had been waiting for all along. The royal cells were colder than winter. Water dripped from the stone ceiling and ran down the walls like tears. A single torch burned outside the iron bars. Its weak light barely reached the corner where Lyra sat. She had been there for hours, or perhaps days. She no longer knew. Her hands trembled as she remembered the look in Rowan's eyes. Mate. She had felt it too. The moment he entered the den, she had known. The moon goddess had chosen him. For one beautiful second, she had believed her lonely life was finally changing. Then the guards came. The accusations came. And now she sat alone in a prison cell. A soft sound broke the silence. Footsteps. The door opened. Alpha King Rowan stepped inside. He was still wearing his black armor from the battlefield. Rain had dried on the edges of his cloak. For a long moment neither of them spoke. Then he asked quietly, "Did you really steal from the kitchens?" Lyra looked at him. Yes. The answer surprised him. She lowered her eyes. "I stole leftover bread. I stole soup that servants threw away. I stole fruit that had already spoiled." His jaw tightened. "Why?" "Because your children were hungry." The words hit him again. Hard. She looked up. "I know I should not have taken the food. Punish me for that if you wish. But I never poisoned anyone." The torch flickered between them. Rowan stepped closer. "Why did my children trust you?" A sad smile touched her lips. "Because I listened." She looked beyond him as if she could still see the den. The little princess was afraid of the dark. The little prince could not sleep because he thought his mother would forget him. Every night they waited for someone. No one came. Silence. A terrible silence. The Alpha King suddenly felt ashamed. "I was at war." "I know." Her voice was gentle. "But children do not understand war. They only understand who stays and who leaves." The words cut deep. He looked at her face. At the bruise on her cheek. "Who hurt you?" Again she looked away. No answer. He crouched in front of her. "Tell me." "A kitchen servant became angry because I took bread." The words were quiet. "He struck me." The Alpha's eyes darkened. No one in his kingdom had the right to hit a woman. Especially not an Omega. "Why did you never report him?" She almost laughed. "Who would believe a servant?" The answer left him speechless. Before he could say another word, footsteps echoed outside. Beta Darius entered. "Your Majesty." He bowed. "The council has gathered. They are demanding judgment." Lyra's face turned pale. Darius looked at her with false pity. "I am sorry, child. The evidence against you is overwhelming." "I am innocent." Her voice shook. Darius sighed. "Innocent people do not hide the queen's necklace beneath their beds." "I did not hide it, nor did I poison anyone." His eyes narrowed for just a second. Then the expression vanished. "The council awaits." Rowan rose slowly. He looked at Lyra. "I will find the truth." She searched his face. "Will you?" The question hurt more than he expected. A few moments later the great hall filled with nobles. Torches burned along the walls. Rain hammered against the stained glass windows. Every seat was occupied. Whispers spread through the room like fire. The servant poisoned the queen. The servant bewitched the children. The servant stole from the palace. Lyra was brought inside in chains. She kept her head lowered. The whispers became louder. Then another sound filled the hall. Small footsteps. Ilara and Cashin ran into the room. "Father!" The twins rushed toward Rowan. The guards tried to stop them, but he raised his hand. "Let them come." Ilara clung to his arm. "Please do not hurt her." Cashin nodded. "She is good." The nobles looked shocked. The children had not spoken to anyone in months. Now they defended an accused murderer. Lady Selene stood from her seat. "Your Majesty, the children are confused. They have suffered a terrible loss. They cannot understand what this woman has done." "No!" Cashin shouted. "She did not hurt Mother." The room became silent. Everyone stared at the boy. Selene forced a smile. "How would you know, little prince?" Cashin's face turned pale. He looked down. "I just know." Darius stepped forward. "Your Majesty, emotions cannot change facts." He held up the bottle of poison. "This was found in her room." Then he lifted the necklace. "And this belonged to the late queen." The nobles began murmuring again. "Guilty. Execute her. Punish her." Lyra looked around the hall. No one stood beside her. No one believed her, except two small children. The loneliness in her eyes made Rowan's chest ache. Then Selene spoke again. "There is another matter." She turned toward the Alpha King. "The moon goddess chose this woman as your mate." Gasps filled the hall. Lyra froze. She had hoped no one else noticed. Selene smiled coldly. "Imagine the shame. A servant becoming queen. A thief sitting beside the Alpha King." Cruel laughter echoed around the hall. Lyra's face burned. She had spent her whole life being looked down upon. But this humiliation felt different, because it came in front of him, in front of the man fate had chosen. Selene walked toward her. "Tell us, servant, did you seduce the king on purpose?" "No." "Did you sneak into the den, hoping to become Luna? No. Then why are you here? Tears filled Lyra's eyes. Because the children were crying. The hall became quiet again. She looked at Rowan. I only wanted them to sleep. Her voice broke. I only wanted someone to hold them. Ilara burst into tears. Cassian gripped his father's hand. Please, Daddy. Do not send her away. Rowan closed his eyes. His wolf was restless. Protect her. Choose her. But every noble in the kingdom was watching him. Every accusation pointed toward guilt. Every whisper demanded punishment. Then Darius spoke the words that changed everything. If she becomes your mate despite these crimes, the people will believe their king values desire above justice. The sentence struck like thunder. The kingdom had already suffered enough. Another scandal could destroy his rule. He looked at Lyra, at her tears, at the children clinging to her. Then he made the worst decision of his life. His voice echoed through the hall. I reject you as my mate. The entire room gasped. Lyra stopped breathing. The bond snapped like glass. Pain exploded through her chest. She staggered backward. No. Ilara screamed. Cassian began crying. But Rowan could not take the words back. I reject you. I reject the bond. I reject the claim of the moon goddess. Tears rolled down Lyra's cheeks. She looked at him as though he had pierced her heart with a blade. For a long moment she said nothing. Then she whispered, I accept. The last thread between them broke. A terrible silence followed, and in that silence something changed. Lyra lifted her head. The fear in her eyes was gone. Only sorrow remained. Then she turned and walked out of the great hall. No one stopped her. No one spoke. Even the storm outside seemed to hold its breath. Far down the corridor she suddenly stopped. A wave of dizziness struck her. She grabbed the wall. A royal healer rushed toward her. Child, are you all right? Lyra looked up. The old woman gently touched her wrist. Then her eyes widened. Oh, dear moon goddess. What is it? The healer looked at her with disbelief. You are carrying a child. Lyra's world stopped. Her hand slowly moved to her stomach. A child. The Alpha King's child. Tears filled her eyes once more. At that same moment a servant came running from the great hall. Your Majesty. The prisoner is gone. Rowan's head snapped up. Gone. The servant nodded. Her cell is empty. The Alpha King ran from the hall. The storm swallowed the castle. And somewhere in the darkness his rejected mate had vanished, carrying a secret that would change all their lives forever. The snow began to fall before midnight. White flakes drifted across the dark forest as Lyra ran down the mountain path. Her thin dress was soaked by the storm, and her hands were numb from cold, but she did not stop. She could still hear Rowan's voice. I reject you as my mate. The words followed her through the darkness like ghosts. Every breath hurt. Every step felt heavier. One hand rested over her stomach. A child. She was carrying his child. A small broken laugh escaped her lips. The moon goddess had a cruel sense of humor. She had found her mate only to lose him on the same night. A branch snapped somewhere behind her. Lyra froze. For one terrifying moment she thought soldiers had come after her. But no one appeared. Only the wind. Only the snow. She continued walking. By dawn she could no longer feel her feet. A tiny cabin appeared between the trees. Smoke rose from its chimney. She knocked once, then twice. The door opened. An old woman with silver hair looked at her. The woman took one look at her face and gasped. Child. Lyra tried to speak. Instead, everything went dark. When she opened her eyes, she was lying beside a fire. Warm blankets covered her body. The old woman sat nearby stirring soup. You nearly froze to death. Lyra slowly sat up. Where am I? My home. The old woman smiled gently. I am Mara. Tears suddenly filled Lyra's eyes. She had been alone for so long that simple kindness felt strange. Mara noticed. You are safe here. The words broke something inside her. She covered her face and began to cry. Hours later, she finally told the old woman everything. The children, the accusation, the rejection, the baby. Mara listened quietly. When Lyra finished, the old woman touched her hand. Then perhaps your child saved your life. Lyra looked up. If you had stayed in that castle, your heart would have broken completely. Outside the cabin, snow continued to fall. For the first time in years, Lyra slept peacefully. Far away in the castle, no one slept. Rowan stood in the middle of the empty cell. The door hung open. The chains lay on the floor. She was gone. The bond between them had already broken. Now she had vanished too. Find her. His voice shook with anger. Search every village, every road, every forest. The guards hurried away. But dawn came. Then another dawn. Then another. No sign of her. Weeks passed. Then months. The kingdom entered spring. Still no Lyra. One evening Rowan stood on the balcony watching the sunset. He had never noticed how empty the castle felt. The den remained untouched. His children refused to leave it. Every night they slept beside the cold fireplace where Lyra had once slept. One night he entered quietly. Cashin was awake. The boy looked smaller than before. Daddy. Yes. When is she coming back? The question pierced him. I do not know. Cashin lowered his head. You made her cry. The words were simple, but they carried more pain than anger. Rowan sat beside his son. I know. Then why did you send her away? He had no answer, because even now he did not understand why he had chosen duty over the woman his soul recognized. Ilara suddenly woke. She looked around the room. Then she began crying. I had a dream. Rowan pulled her close. What dream? She wiped her tears. I dreamed she was cold. I could not find her. The Alpha King closed his eyes, because he feared the dream might be true. Summer arrived. Then autumn. Still nothing. The kingdom slowly changed. The harvest failed. Several villages were attacked by rogue wolves. Trade routes closed. People whispered that the kingdom had lost the moon goddess's blessing. More and more often Rowan heard the same words. The king rejected his true mate. The kingdom is cursed. One morning, Beta, Darius entered the throne room. Your Majesty, the eastern villages need more soldiers. Another attack. Darius nodded. People are afraid. Rowan looked tired. Everything seemed to be falling apart. Lady Selene entered moments later. The people need a queen. She walked toward him. They need stability. They need hope. He knew what she was asking. Marriage. Again. He looked away. I am not discussing this. Her expression hardened. How long will you mourn a servant? The room became cold. Darius lowered his eyes. Perhaps Lady Selene is right. The kingdom cannot wait forever. Rowan rose from his throne. I said enough. He walked out. Behind him Selene's face filled with anger. As the doors closed, Darius spoke quietly. He still thinks about her. Selene's hands clenched. Then perhaps we must give him something else to fear. Winter returned. 6 years passed like drifting snow. The twins grew taller. Their smiles never fully returned. Every year they placed flowers inside the den. Every year they hoped she would come back. Every year she did not. One evening Rowan entered the room and found Ilara holding an old blanket. She looked up at him. I remember her song. His chest tightened. So do I. The little girl smiled sadly. I still miss her. He sat beside her. I miss her too. The words surprised even him. Because they were true. He missed her kindness. Her courage. The way she had held his children as if they belonged to her. Regret had become his shadow. Then a guard burst into the room. Your Majesty. The king stood immediately. What happened? A messenger has arrived from the Moon Kingdom. The Moon Kingdom. A powerful land far beyond the northern mountains. The guard looked pale. They demand an audience. Minutes later Rowan entered the throne room. A tall man in blue robes stood waiting. He bowed. I bring a message from my king. Speak. The messenger lifted his head. The Moon Kingdom searches for its lost princess. Silence filled the room. What does that have to do with me? The messenger's eyes became cold. Our information suggests she may have once lived inside your kingdom. Rowan frowned. I know nothing of a lost princess. The man stepped forward. Then allow me to be clear. If she is here and any harm has come to her, the Moon Kingdom will consider it an act of war. A chill ran through the room. The messenger reached inside his robe and removed a small portrait. He handed it to Rowan. The Alpha King looked down. His heart stopped. The woman in the painting had dark curls, green eyes, and a gentle smile. It was Lyra. The portrait slipped from his hand. The messenger's voice echoed through the silent throne room. Her true name is Princess Lyriana, and she disappeared from this world 6 years ago. The Alpha King could not breathe, because the servant he had rejected was not a servant at all. She was a princess, and somewhere beyond the mountains the woman he had lost was still alive. 6 years earlier, the first snow of winter had just melted when Lyra's child decided to enter the world. The pain came before sunrise. She was gathering water outside the cabin when her knees suddenly weakened. The bucket slipped from her hands. A sharp pain spread through her body. Mara hurried outside and took one look at her face. "It is time." The old woman helped her back inside. The day became long. The pain became endless. Outside, the forest remained silent, as if even the trees were waiting. Then at last a cry filled the cabin. A tiny boy. Mara wrapped him in a blanket and placed him in Lyra's trembling arms. The child opened his eyes. Silver. Exactly like his father. Tears rolled down Lyra's cheeks. "Hello, little one." The baby grabbed her finger. In that moment, the pain of rejection did not disappear. The loneliness did not disappear. But something else appeared. Hope. "What will you call him?" Lyra smiled through her tears. "Orion." The old woman nodded. A strong name. Orion became the center of her world. The little cabin filled with laughter again. The boy loved chasing butterflies. He loved climbing trees. He loved asking endless questions. And every night he would curl beside his mother and ask the same thing. "Do I have a father?" The question always made Lyra's heart ache. "Yes." "Where is he?" "Far away." "Will I meet him someday?" She never had an answer. Years passed like a flowing river. Orion grew taller. His dark hair became thick and wild. His silver eyes looked more and more like Rowan's. The resemblance became impossible to ignore. One afternoon, Lyra found him sitting beside a wounded fox. The animal should have been afraid. Instead, it rested quietly in his lap. "What happened?" Orion looked up. "Its leg hurts." The little boy touched the fox gently. "I told him not to be scared." Lyra froze. "Told him?" The boy nodded. "He understands me." The fox made a small sound as if agreeing. A cold shiver passed through her. The boy could speak to animals. That night she told Mara everything. The old woman looked thoughtful. "I feared this day would come." "What do you mean?" Mara walked toward an old wooden chest and opened it. Inside lay a blue cloth. Carefully wrapped within it was a silver necklace shaped like a moon. She handed it to Lyra. "This belonged to your mother." "My mother?" Mara nodded slowly. "I promised I would tell you when the time was right." Lyra's hands trembled. "I was left at the orphanage when I was a baby." "No." Mara looked into the fire. "You were hidden." "Hidden from whom?" The old woman sighed. "From people who wanted you dead." Silence filled the room. Mara finally looked at her. "You are not an orphan, Lyra. You are Princess Lyriana of the Moon Kingdom." The world seemed to stop. "No, that cannot be true." "It is." The old woman touched the necklace. "Your mother gave you to me during a terrible night. Enemies were hunting the royal family. She begged me to hide you. She promised she would return." "Did she?" Mara's eyes filled with sadness. "No." Tears blurred Lyra's vision. All these years, she had believed she belonged nowhere. Now she suddenly belonged to an entire kingdom. "Why did you never tell me?" "Because they were still searching for you. I wanted you to grow up safely." Orion walked into the room carrying the fox. "Mother." He stopped. "Why are you crying?" Lyra looked at him, then at the moon necklace, then back at her son. Because everything she believed about herself had changed. Days later, another surprise came. Orion and Lyra were gathering herbs near the river when several riders appeared between the trees. Their horses carried blue banners, marked with a silver moon. The riders dismounted. One of them stared at Lyra. Then he slowly dropped to one knee. "Your Highness." She stepped backward. "I think you're mistaken." The man looked at the necklace around her neck. "No. We have searched for you for years. You bear the mark of the Moon Princess." "What mark?" The soldier looked confused. "You do not know." Before anyone could answer, a strange warmth spread through Lyra's wrist. She gasped. A silver light appeared on her skin. A crescent moon. The soldiers looked amazed. "The mark has awakened." Orion stared at his mother with wide eyes. "Are you really a princess?" Lyra could not speak. She simply looked at the glowing mark. The soldiers invited her to return with them. She refused. Not yet. The world she had built here was peaceful, safe. She did not want to throw Orion into royal politics. The captain bowed respectfully. "Then at least accept our protection. We will remain nearby until you are ready." From that day, everything changed. More people began arriving at the cabin. Healers. warriors, scholars. They all called her Your Highness. They all bowed before her. At first she hated it. Then slowly she accepted it. She also discovered another truth. The women of the Moon Kingdom carried ancient healing powers. A gift passed through their royal blood. One evening an injured wolf was brought to her. Its side had been torn open. The animal should have died. Without thinking, Lyra touched the wound. A warm silver light spread from her hands. The injury began to close. Everyone around her stared in shock. Mara smiled softly. The Moon Guardian has awakened. What is that? A protector. A healer. The ancient gift of her family. News of her powers spread quickly. People traveled from distant villages seeking her help. She healed children. She healed warriors. She healed animals. The lonely servant who had once stolen bread became someone respected. Someone needed. Someone powerful. One night she stood outside the cabin looking at the stars. Orion walked beside her. Mother. Yes. Why do you look sad? She smiled. Do I look sad? A little. The boy held her hand. Is it because of my father? The question caught her by surprise. Maybe. He looked up at her. Do you still love him? The wind moved through the trees. For a long moment she said nothing. Then she whispered the truth. A piece of my heart still remembers him. Orion thought for a moment. Then maybe one day we should find him. She smiled sadly. Maybe. Far away beyond the mountains another storm was beginning. A rider from the Alpha Kingdom arrived at the moon camp before dawn. He carried terrible news. The Alpha Kingdom was falling into chaos. Rogue attacks were increasing. Villages were burning. And the Alpha King had finally learned the identity of the woman he rejected. The messenger looked directly at Lyra. Your Highness, King Rowan Blackthorn, now knows you are alive. Silence settled over the clearing. Then the messenger spoke again. And he is searching for you. The fire crackled softly inside the cabin. No one spoke. The messenger's words still hung in the air. King Rowan Blackthorn now knows you are alive. Lyra stood beside the window and looked into the darkness outside. The forest had been her home for 6 years. It had hidden her tears and protected her child. Now the past had found her again. Orion tugged gently on her sleeve. Mother. She looked down. Who is King Rowan? For a moment she could not breathe. The boy's silver eyes looked exactly like his father's. She touched his cheek. He is someone I once knew. The little boy tilted his head. A friend. The answer caught in her throat. No, not a friend. Then who is he? Before she could answer, Mara stepped forward. It is late, little wolf. You should sleep. Orion looked from one face to another. He knew something important was being hidden. But he nodded and walked toward his room. Just before disappearing behind the curtain, he turned back. Mother. Yes. Why are you crying? Only then did Lyra realize tears had filled her eyes. She quickly wiped them away. I am not crying. The boy smiled. You always say that when you are crying. Then he disappeared into the small room. Silence returned. The messenger bowed his head. Your Highness, the Alpha Kingdom is asking for your help. Why? A strange sickness has spread through several villages. Animals are dying. Children are becoming ill. He hesitated. The people believe the kingdom has lost the blessing of the moon goddess. Lyra slowly sat beside the fire. 6 years ago, she had left that kingdom with nothing. No home, no family, no future. Yet her heart still ached when she heard that innocent people were suffering. Mara watched her carefully. You want to go. I should not. But you want to. Lyra closed her eyes. Yes. The old woman smiled gently. Then perhaps it is time. The next morning the forest glowed beneath the rising sun. Orion raced between the trees while soldiers prepared horses. The little boy had never traveled beyond the forest. He was excited. Are we going on an adventure? Lyra smiled. Something like that. Will there be castles? Yes. Dragons? I hope not. The boy laughed. For the first time in many years she felt nervous. Because every step toward the Alpha Kingdom was also a step toward Rowan. 3 days later the towers of a castle appeared on the horizon. Orion gasped. It is huge. The castle stood high upon the mountain, exactly as she remembered. For a moment old memories flooded back. The den. The children. The rejection. Pain moved through her chest. Then she took a deep breath. She was not the frightened Omega anymore. She was Princess Lyriana, the Moon Guardian, a healer, a mother. The gates opened. Soldiers bowed as she entered. Servants hurried through the courtyard. Everything looked the same, yet everything felt different. A guard ran toward the palace. The Moon Guardian has arrived. Moments later, footsteps echoed through the corridor. Rowan appeared. He stopped as though the world had suddenly frozen. Lyra stood only a few feet away. Her dark curls were longer. She wore elegant blue robes. A silver moon rested against her throat. She looked stronger, brighter, more beautiful than he remembered. For several seconds, neither of them spoke. Then his eyes moved. A little boy stood beside her. The child had dark hair, silver eyes, and the same stubborn expression Rowan saw every morning in the mirror. The Alpha King forgot how to breathe. The little boy stared back at him. Mother, who is that man? Lyra swallowed. That is King Rowan. Orion nodded politely. Hello, King Rowan. The simple greeting felt like a knife in the Alpha's chest. Because he knew. He knew immediately. The child was his. The same silver eyes had looked back at him every day of his life. His knees almost gave way. Lyra turned to leave. Wait. His voice sounded rough. She stopped. I never thought I would see you again. She looked at him calmly. Neither did I. Thousands of words filled his heart. Apologies, questions, regrets. Yet only one escaped. Are you well? A faint smile touched her lips. I survived. The answer hurt more than anger. Suddenly running footsteps echoed through the hall. Ilara appeared first. Then Cashin. The twins were no longer little children. They had grown tall, but the moment they saw Lyra they stopped. Their eyes widened. No one moved. Then Ilara burst into tears. It is really you. She ran forward. Cashin followed. Both of them threw their arms around Lyra. She almost lost her balance. The twins clung to her as if afraid she might disappear again. You came back. Ilara's voice trembled. You really came back. Lyra's eyes filled with tears. She had them tightly. I missed you both. Cashin looked up at her. Did you leave because of us? No. Never. The boy's eyes became red. We waited for you. Every year. Every birthday. Every winter. The words broke her heart. Orion watched everything in confusion. He tugged on her sleeve. Mother, who are these people? The twins turned toward him. For the first time they noticed the child. Cashin frowned. Who is he? Orion smiled. I am Orion. Ilara looked at him. You have the same eyes as the king. The corridor suddenly became very quiet. Orion looked at Rowan, then back at Lyra. Do I? No one answered. The little boy took a step toward the Alpha King. You do look a little like me. A strange expression crossed Rowan's face. The child was so close now. Close enough to touch. Close enough to hold. Years of regret suddenly crashed into him. 6 years. He had missed 6 years. The first smile. The first steps. The first words. Everything. Orion tilted his head. Why are you looking at me like that? Rowan's voice almost failed him. Because I think I have been looking for you my entire life. The little boy blinked. That is strange. Why? Because this is the first time we have met. Silence. A long deep silence. Then Ilara whispered, Father. The word seemed to echo through the corridor. Cashin slowly looked at Orion, then at Rowan, then at Lyra. Understanding spread across his face. No. He looked shocked. No. Orion frowned. What is happening? Ilara covered her mouth. Tears filled her eyes. The little boy looked exactly like their father. Exactly. Then Orion asked the question that changed everything. Mother, is this man my father? The entire corridor became still. Even the servants stopped moving. Lyra closed her eyes. She had wanted more time. One more day. One more hour. But fate had different plans. When she opened her eyes, she looked at her son. Then she looked at Rowan. Finally she whispered, Yes. The little boy slowly turned toward the Alpha King. And for the first time in his life, he said the word that Rowan had dreamed of hearing. Father. Father. The single word seemed to stop time. Rowan stared at the little boy in front of him. His son. His flesh and blood. A child he never knew existed. A child who had grown up without him. Orion looked confused by the silence. Did I say something wrong? The Alpha King suddenly dropped to one knee. His silver eyes were filled with emotions he could not hide. No. His voice shook. You said something very beautiful. The little boy studied his face. Are you crying? A soft laugh escaped Rowan. Maybe a little. Orion smiled. Mother cries too. Lyra quickly looked away. She did not want him to see the tears in her own eyes. Then something unexpected happened. Orion took 2 small steps forward and hugged Rowan. The Alpha King froze. The boy's arms barely reached around him. But that simple touch broke the last wall around his heart. Slowly he wrapped his arms around his son. For 6 years, he had thought his life was empty. Now he understood why. A part of his soul had been missing. The corridor became silent. Even the servants wiped away tears. Then another voice broke the moment. How touching! Everyone turned. Lady Selene stood at the end of the corridor. Her face had become pale. Her eyes moved from Rowan to Orion, then to Lyra. So it is true. The servant returned with an air. Lyra's expression hardened. I did not return for power. Selene laughed softly. Of course not. Her eyes filled with hatred. You only returned with the king's son. The atmosphere changed immediately. The warmth disappeared. Orion stepped behind his mother. He did not like the way this woman looked at them. Rowan rose to his feet. That is enough. Selene looked at him in disbelief. You cannot be serious. This child changes everything. He is my son. Exactly. Her voice became sharp. And what does that make me? The answer came quickly. Nothing. The word struck her like a slap. For years she had waited beside him. For years she had believed she would become queen. Now everything was slipping away. She looked at Lyra with burning eyes. This is your fault. Before anyone could answer, another voice echoed through the hall. Enough. Beta Darius walked toward them. His expression looked calm as always. Yet when his eyes fell upon Orion, something cold flashed inside them. A secret air. This could become dangerous. Rowan looked at him. Dangerous for whom? The kingdom is unstable. People are frightened. A sudden appearance of another royal child could create conflict. Orion frowned. I am not dangerous. The innocence in the boy's voice made Lyra's heart ache. Darius smiled. Of course not, little prince. But not everyone will understand. Something about the man's smile made Orion uncomfortable. The little boy moved closer to Rowan. The Alpha noticed immediately. For some reason his son did not trust Darius. The same way Cassian never trusted him. That thought made something stir inside his mind. A memory. 6 years ago. Cassian looking frightened. Cassian staring at Darius. The feeling vanished before Rowan could catch it. At that moment a servant rushed into the corridor. Your Majesty, the healer from the eastern village has arrived. Rowan nodded. Bring him in. An old man entered carrying a wooden box. He looked exhausted. The sickness is spreading. Children are becoming weak. Nothing we do can stop it. Lyra stepped forward. Take me to them. The old man looked surprised. Who are you? The moon guardian. His eyes widened. Then perhaps the goddess has answered our prayers. Within an hour Lyra was riding toward the village with Rowan and the children. The sky was gray. Cold wind moved through the fields. When they arrived, the scene was heartbreaking. Children lay inside small homes. Mothers sat beside their beds crying. Animals had become thin and weak. The entire village felt cursed. Lyra moved from house to house. She touched burning foreheads. She mixed herbs. She whispered gentle words. Silver light flowed from her hands. One by one the children opened their eyes. One by one the fever disappeared. The villagers watched in amazement. By sunset people were kneeling before her. Thank you, Moon Guardian. Thank you, Princess. The title still felt strange to her. As she walked outside, she found Rowan watching her. The setting sun painted the sky gold. You saved them. She smiled softly. I only helped. No. He looked at her with admiration. You gave them hope. Silence settled between them. Then he spoke again. I should have searched harder for you. You did search. She looked toward the mountains. I heard the stories. Then why did you never come back? She was quiet for a long time. Because I was afraid. Afraid of me. Afraid of loving you again. The honesty of her answer left him speechless. At that moment laughter echoed nearby. The children were playing. Ilara and Cassian chased Orion through the grass. For the first time in years, all 3 children looked happy. Rowan smiled. They already love him. Lyra looked at the children. Their family. The words filled him with warmth. Then suddenly Cassian stopped running. His face turned pale. The boy stared toward the forest. What is it? He did not answer. His breathing became fast. The trees. He whispered. The trees. Rowan walked toward him. Cashin looked terrified. I remember. Remember what? The little prince's hands began shaking. The Night Mother died. Silence. Everyone turned toward him. Ilara slowly stepped closer. I remember too. Her voice trembled. A chill passed through Rowan. The children had never spoken about that night. Never. Cashin looked into the forest, as if seeing another time. Mother was crying. Someone was shouting. Who? The boy's breathing became uneven. A man. He had dark clothes. Ilara covered her mouth. He gave Mother something to drink. The world seemed to stop. Rowan's heart pounded. What man? Cashin looked up. Fear filled his eyes. I know his face. Who was it? The boy's lips trembled. Then finally he whispered. It was Uncle Darius. Silence crashed over the field. Even the wind seemed to die. No one moved. No one breathed. The children looked at each other. Then Ilara nodded slowly. I remember too. He was there. He was with Mother. A terrible cold spread through Rowan's body. The man he trusted more than anyone. The man who accused Lyra. The man who found the poison. The man who found the necklace. Darius. Far away inside the castle Beta, Darius stood beside a window. A servant hurried into the room. My lord. The children remember. For the first time in years, fear appeared on his face. Remember what? The servant swallowed. Everything. Darius slowly looked toward the darkening sky. Then his expression changed. The fear disappeared. Only cruelty remained. So the time has finally come. He turned toward the servant. Prepare the soldiers. Tonight we take the throne. Night fell like a black curtain across the kingdom. The fire inside the village hall burned low while everyone sat in silence. No one could forget the words Cashin had spoken. It was Uncle Darius. The little prince sat beside his sister. Both children looked frightened. Memories they had buried for 6 years had suddenly returned. Rowan stood near the window. His hands were clenched. His heart was beating like a war drum. Darius, the friend who had fought beside him, the man he had trusted with his kingdom, the man who had stood beside him on the night he rejected Lyra, the man who had shown him the poison, the necklace, the evidence, everything. A terrible truth was slowly rising from the darkness. What if none of it had been real? What if he had destroyed the woman he loved because of a lie? He closed his eyes. The pain in his chest became almost unbearable. A soft voice broke the silence. You should sit. He turned. Lyra was standing beside him. The silver light from the fire touched her face. She looked calm. Too calm. He wished she would shout at him. He wished she would hate him. Instead, she looked at him with quiet sadness. I do not deserve to sit. She lowered her eyes. No, perhaps you do not. The honesty of her words hurt more than anger. For a long moment, they simply stood there. Then Rowan finally spoke. I need to ask you something. She looked at him. Did you ever hate me? The question surprised her. She thought for a long time. Then she answered. I tried. The words were soft. I tried every day. And did you succeed? A sad smile appeared on her lips. No. Silence. Outside, the wind moved through the trees. I hated what you did. I hated the pain. I hated the loneliness. She looked directly into his eyes. But I never hated you. The Alpha King's chest tightened. Because he had never stopped loving her either. I was wrong. His voice was rough. I should have trusted you. Yes. The simple answer cut deeply. I should have protected you. Yes. I should have found you before 6 years passed. Tears filled his eyes. Yes. Each answer felt like another blade. Lyra looked at him quietly. Regret is a heavy thing, Rowan. I know. You cannot change the past. I know. Then stop trying to live in it. The words settled into the silence. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Rowan did something he had never done before. He went down on one knee. Lyra's eyes widened. The mighty Alpha King looked up at her. I am sorry. The words were almost a whisper. I am sorry for every tear. I am sorry for every lonely night. I am sorry our son grew up without a father. His voice broke. And I am sorry I failed you. Tears filled her eyes. No one had ever apologized to her before. No one had ever knelt for her. But the wound inside her heart was deep. Too deep. She slowly stepped back. I forgive you. Hope suddenly appeared in his eyes. But I cannot forget. The hope disappeared. She looked toward the children sleeping beside the fire. Some scars never disappear. Rowan lowered his head. I understand. But the truth was he did not understand. Because he wanted another chance. He wanted to become the man he should have been 6 years ago. A loud knock suddenly echoed through the hall. A soldier rushed inside. Your Majesty, the castle is under attack. Everyone stood. What? The soldier looked terrified. Darius has raised an army. Half of the royal guard has joined him. Another soldier entered. They have taken the western gate. The room exploded with movement. Warriors grabbed their swords. Horses were prepared. The children woke in confusion. Rowan's face became cold. So it begins. He looked at Lyra. You and the children will remain here. No. The answer came instantly. He frowned. It is too dangerous. She stepped closer. I ran once. I will not run again. The determination in her voice reminded him that she was no longer the frightened servant from 6 years ago. She was the moon guardian, a princess, a mother, a woman who had survived heartbreak and built herself anew. Very well. An hour later they reached the castle. Smoke rose into the night sky. The sound of steel echoed through the mountain. Torches burned across the walls. The kingdom was tearing itself apart. As they entered the courtyard, another figure appeared. Lady Selene. Her silver dress was stained with dirt. Her face looked pale. You must leave. Rowan looked at her. Why? Because Darius knows everything. Everything. She looked at Lyra. He knows the children remember. He knows the truth is coming. The woman seemed terrified. Where is he? In the throne room. Suddenly arrows flew from the walls. Everyone scattered. Soldiers poured into the courtyard. The battle had begun. Take the children. Rowan looked at Lyra. Go now. She nodded and grabbed Orion's hand. Ilara and Cashin followed. They hurried toward a side passage. But before they could reach it, several armed men stepped from the shadows. Their faces were covered. Their swords gleamed in the torchlight. Lyra pulled the children behind her. Run. The children did not move. The men attacked. Before they reached her, silver light burst from her hands. The nearest soldier flew backward. The others stopped in shock. Moon magic. One of them shouted. At that exact moment someone grabbed Lyra from behind. A cloth covered her mouth. She struggled. The world blurred. Orion screamed. Mother. Rowan turned at the sound. His heart stopped. Several men were dragging Lyra away. No. He ran toward her. Too late. A sword blocked his path. By the time he defeated the soldier, the kidnappers had vanished into the darkness. Orion's cries echoed through the courtyard. Mother. The little boy was shaking. Ilara and Cashin held on to him. Rowan looked toward the forest beyond the castle walls. A terrible feeling settled in his chest. This was not an accident. This was a plan. A trap. Then a voice echoed from above. Darius stood on the balcony. He smiled down at them. Bring me the throne, or lose your precious princess forever. The words hung in the cold night air. And for the second time in his life, Rowan watched Lyra disappear into the darkness. This time he swore he would burn the entire kingdom before he lost her again. The dungeon smelled of smoke and blood. A single torch burned against the wall. Its weak light fell upon Lyra. Her wrists were bound with iron chains. The silver glow of her healing magic had faded. For a long time she simply listened. Dripping water. The crackling torch. Distant footsteps. Then the heavy door opened. Beta Darius walked inside. He looked calm. Almost pleased. He stopped in front of her. I wondered how long it would take before fate brought us together again. Lyra lifted her head. Why? The question was simple. Why did you do all this? A smile slowly appeared on his face. Because I was tired of kneeling. He crouched in front of her. I spent my entire life serving kings, fighting their wars, protecting their families. Yet no crown was ever meant for me. His eyes darkened. Then your precious queen became ill. And I saw an opportunity. The words made her blood run cold. You poisoned her. I did. He said it without shame. Tears filled Lyra's eyes. She was innocent. She trusted me. His smile widened. Trust is a dangerous thing. Then why blame me? Because I needed someone weak. Someone nobody would defend. An Omega servant. Perfect. He stood and walked slowly across the room. You should be proud. Without you I could never have come this far. A deep rage rose inside her. For 6 years, she had blamed herself. For 6 years, she had carried the pain of rejection. And all of it had been born from this man's lies. The chains around her wrists rattled. You destroyed everything. No. He looked at her. The king destroyed everything. I only showed him a path. He chose to walk it. The words struck like a knife because there was truth inside them. Darius turned toward the door. Soon the kingdom will belong to me. And when I sit on that throne, no one will remember the servant girl. He smiled one last time. But they will remember the king who failed her. Then he left. Silence returned. Tears slipped down Lyra's face. Not tears of sadness. Tears of anger. For the first time in years, she wanted revenge. Outside the castle, war raged. Steel crashed against steel. Torches burned. The night itself seemed to scream. Rowan fought like a man possessed. Every enemy that stood before him fell. Every step carried him closer to Lyra. He had already lost her once. He would not lose her again. Beside him fought Cashin. The young prince had a sword in his hand. You stay behind me. No. The boy's eyes burned with determination. He took mother from us. I want him to pay. A sudden cry echoed across the courtyard. Lady Selene appeared between two soldiers. She looked terrified. I know where he took her. Rowan stopped. Then tell me. She looked toward the burning tower. The old dungeon. The one beneath the western wing. Why are you helping us? Tears appeared in her eyes. Because I was wrong. Silence. I hated Lyra because I wanted your crown. She looked at the ground. I helped Darius frame her. The words shocked everyone. I planted the poison. I hid the necklace. Her voice broke. I thought he would make me queen. Instead, he planned to kill me once he had the throne. For the first time in years, genuine regret filled her face. I cannot undo what I did, but I can tell the truth. Rowan stared at her. Then he turned toward his soldiers. Open the gates. Tonight this ends. Moments later they stormed the western tower. The old dungeon shook from the battle above. The door burst open. Light flooded the darkness. Lyra looked up, and there he was, Rowan. For a second neither of them moved. Then he crossed the room and pulled her into his arms. She closed her eyes. She had never imagined this moment. I thought I lost you again. His voice trembled. She held on to him. I am here. The chains were broken. Her wrists were freed. Then footsteps echoed through the dungeon. Darius entered. Several armed men followed him. I knew you would come. His sword gleamed in the torchlight. You always choose love over reason. Rowan stepped in front of Lyra. This ends tonight. Darius laughed. No. Tonight I become king. He raised his sword. Attack. The dungeon exploded into chaos. Steel flashed. Men shouted. The walls echoed with battle. Darius and Rowan faced each other at last. The two men circled slowly. I trusted you. Rowan's voice was cold. That was your mistake. Their swords collided. Once. Twice. Again. Sparks flew. Darius attacked with fury. Rowan fought with rage. Years of friendship and betrayal crashed together. Then above the battle another sound echoed. Children's voices. Orion. And the twins had followed them. Father. Rowan's eyes widened. Stay back. But the children were already there. Darius smiled cruelly. Perfect. He suddenly grabbed a fallen dagger and threw it. Straight at Orion. No. Lyra screamed. Silver light burst from her hands. The dagger stopped in the air. For one beautiful moment it simply floated. Then it dropped harmlessly to the floor. Everyone froze. The entire dungeon glowed with silver light. Lyra slowly stepped forward. Her eyes shone like moonlight. The mark on her wrist burned brightly. The Moon Guardian. Even Darius looked afraid. You should have stayed a servant. Her voice became cold. You should have remembered that kindness is not weakness. The light around her grew stronger. For the first time in years, she no longer looked like the frightened girl from the den. She looked like a queen born of moonlight. Darius stepped backward. No, this cannot be happening. You took my home. You stole my life. You broke my family. She raised her hand. But tonight I take everything back. The silver light struck him. Darius crashed against the wall. His sword fell from his hand. Soldiers rushed forward and surrounded him. The battle was over. The villain had fallen. As he was dragged away, he looked at Lyra with hatred. You may defeat me, but this kingdom will never accept you. Silence followed. Then another voice spoke. It already has. Everyone turned. People were gathering outside the dungeon. Villagers, soldiers, servants. One by one they stepped forward. Then they knelt. Long live Princess Liriana. Long live the Moon Guardian. Tears filled Lyra's eyes. The servant nobody wanted. The Omega everyone blamed. The rejected mate. At last she was seen. At last she was chosen. She looked at Rowan. He looked back at her with pride and love. Then she turned toward the people. The silver light still surrounded her. And for the first time she accepted the truth. She was no longer the lost girl who slept beside wolf pups. She was a princess, a mother, and perhaps something even greater, a queen. But before dawn arrived, she made a decision that shocked everyone. She looked toward the throne room above. Then she spoke words that changed the kingdom forever. I claim my right to challenge for the throne. No one spoke. The words seemed to echo through the broken dungeon. I claim my right to challenge for the throne. The soldiers looked at one another. The villagers stared in shock. Even Rowan remained still. Lyra stood in the center of the room with silver light still glowing around her. Dust floated through the air like tiny stars. She did not look frightened. She did not look uncertain. She looked like someone who had finally remembered who she was. Darius laughed from the floor. A servant wants the throne. His laughter sounded weak, pathetic. Lyra slowly turned toward him. No. Her voice was calm. A woman you tried to destroy wants justice. The smile disappeared from his face. The guards pulled him away. The people followed Lyra and Rowan back to the throne room. Dawn was beginning. The first pale light touched the windows. Smoke still rose from the castle walls. The battle had ended, but the kingdom had not yet found peace. Inside the great hall the nobles gathered. Some looked frightened. Some looked ashamed. Many could not even meet Lyra's eyes, because every one of them had watched her humiliation 6 years earlier. Every one of them had remained silent. Rowan walked to the center of the hall. His black armor was stained with blood and ash. He looked tired, older, as if the long years of regret had finally become visible. He faced the nobles. You all know the truth now. His voice echoed through the chamber. Beta Darius poisoned my queen. He framed an innocent woman. He manipulated this kingdom, and I allowed it to happen. Silence. No one dared interrupt him. I failed as a king. The words seemed to surprise everyone. Kings rarely admitted their mistakes. But Rowan continued. I failed my mate. I failed my son. I failed my children. And I failed my people. His eyes moved toward Lyra. Everything that happened began with my weakness. A noble slowly stood. Your Majesty. No one could have known. I should have known. The answer came immediately. I should have trusted the woman chosen by the moon goddess. He turned toward the throne. For 6 years I sat upon this seat carrying regret. Today I will carry it no longer. The room became very still. Then Rowan did something no one expected. He removed the royal crown. A sharp breath filled the hall. He held the crown in his hands for a long moment. Then he walked toward Lyra. She looked at him in confusion. What are you doing? He smiled sadly. The right thing. He placed the crown into her hands. Gasps echoed through the room. I abdicate. The words hit like thunder. From this day forward the throne belongs to Princess Liriana. The hall exploded with whispers. No. Impossible. He cannot do that. But Rowan raised his hand. Silence returned. This kingdom needs hope. This kingdom needs healing. It needs someone better than me. His eyes softened. It needs her. Tears filled Lyra's eyes. She looked down at the crown. The same woman, who once stole leftover bread, was now holding a kingdom in her hands. I never wanted this. Her voice trembled. I know. Then why give it to me? Because you never wanted power. That is exactly why you deserve it. Silence settled between them. Then an old noble slowly knelt. Long live Queen Liriana. Another noble followed. Then another. Soon the entire hall was kneeling. The sound of hundreds of people dropping to one knee filled the room. Long live Queen Liriana. Long live our queen. Tears slipped down her cheeks. For so many years she had searched for a place where she belonged. Now she had found one. Not because of blood, not because of titles, but because she had earned it. Orion suddenly ran forward. Mother. He wrapped his arms around her. You are a queen. She laughed through her tears. It seemed so. Ilara and Cashin joined them. The four of them stood together beneath the morning light. For the first time they looked like a family. Then the heavy doors opened. Darius was dragged inside in chains. His face was pale. His eyes were filled with hatred. The people began shouting, "Traitor! Murderer! Monster!" He looked toward Rowan. "I served you for years. And this is how you repay me. You murdered my queen. You destroyed innocent lives." Darius laughed bitterly. "I only did what I had to do." "No." Lyra stepped forward. "You did what you wanted." She looked directly into his eyes. "And now you will face justice." For the first time fear appeared on his face. The former beta was taken away. His reign of lies was finally over. Hours later the castle began to change. Servants cleaned the halls. Soldiers repaired the gates. Flowers were placed throughout the throne room. By sunset a new ceremony had been prepared. The crown rested upon a velvet cushion. Lyra stood before the throne wearing a silver gown. Moonlight spilled through the windows and covered her like a blessing. She looked beautiful, powerful. The entire kingdom had gathered. An old priest lifted the crown. "Do you accept the burden of his kingdom?" Lyra looked at the people, at the children, at Rowan. Then she smiled. "I do." The crown was placed upon her head. The hall erupted. Long live Queen Liriana. Long live the Moon Queen. Music filled the room. People laughed. Some cried. Hope had returned. Later that night the celebration finally became quiet. Lyra walked onto the balcony. The moon hung high above the mountains. Soft footsteps sounded behind her. She did not need to turn. She already knew who it was. Rowan stopped beside her. Neither of them spoke for a while. The night was peaceful. At last, he looked at her. "You look beautiful with a crown." She smiled softly. "It feels heavy." "I know." Another silence. Then he took a slow breath. "I do not expect forgiveness." She looked at him. "I do not expect another chance." The wind moved through his dark hair. "But I want you to know something." She waited. "I never stopped loving you." The words hung between them. Simple, honest, painfully true. Tears filled her eyes again. Because a part of her had never stopped loving him either. She looked up at the moon. Then back at him. "I cannot promise tomorrow. I cannot promise forever." His heart began to race. "But I can promise one thing." "What is that?" She slowly placed her hand in his. "We can begin again." For a moment he simply stared at her. Then a smile appeared. The first real smile she had ever seen on his face. He gently pulled her into his arms. She rested her head against his chest. The mountains were quiet. The kingdom slept peacefully. And for the first time in many years both of them felt whole. Then Lyra took his hand and placed it softly against her stomach. He frowned. "What is it?" A shy smile appeared on her lips. "I think our family is about to become a little bigger." He looked at her in confusion. Then his eyes widened. "No." She laughed softly. "Yes. The Alpha King forgot how to breathe." "You mean?" She nodded. "Another baby." For a long moment he simply stared at her. Then he lifted her into his arms and laughed like a man who had been given the entire world. Above them the moon shone brightly. And somewhere in the night it almost felt as though the moon goddess herself was smiling.